So good afternoon, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome you all to this exciting panel about AI and Web3 at the Hong Kong Web3 Festival. I'm Bo Tang. I'm a senior advisor of Bitmodel Labs, and I'm also a head of fintech at the Hong Kong UST Institute of Financial Research. So in the past few years, I've been working on the area of fintech, AI, and blockchain. And already this year, we launched a new project called Bitmodel, which aims to redefine the open source AI commercialization through monetizing and tracking every contribution in the AI value chain through blockchain-powered contribution flow and on-chain tokenomics. So today, I'm very happy to be joined by 5 remarkable speakers who also work some very interesting projects at the intersection of AI and blockchain. So let me briefly introduce our speakers today. Mr. Bob Xu, CEO of Questflow, and Ms. Calinthia May, co-founder of Masa, and Mr. Tong Po, founder and CEO of Hologram Labs, and Ms. Cindy Shi, head of marketing at Kite AI, and Mr. Scott Moore, co-founder of SuperNet. Thank you all for being here. So we are going to unpack some big ideas about AI and Web3 in today's discussion. So let's get started. So to kick things start, could you please briefly introduce your project, and from your unique perspectives, where do you see the biggest opportunities for AI within the decentralized ecosystem? So why don't we start, Bob?
Yeah, for sure. So hi, everyone, I'm Bob, and what we are building is a multi-agent orchestration protocol. Basically, what it means is we put multiple AI agents in a group or group chat and ask these AI agents to autonomously take actions for users, for businesses, for consumers, etc. And well, it kind of matches what I think is the most exciting thing, which is AI automation. Because everybody is talking about using AI to do coding, which is like vibe coding. But what we are trying to focus on is vibe workflowing or vibe automating, which is not only just having you to use tools of AI, but also have AI to actively taking actions on your behalf, whether it's in marketing, it's in sales, in different areas. So yeah, that's what I'm very excited about.
Hey everyone, my name is Calinthia. I'm the co-founder of Masa. Masa is providing real-time data to AI agents and AI application developer. Bob just spoke of vibe coding and vibe automating. So if we think about the entire workflow of building the future of AI applications and AI agents, before you even get to the vibe coding part using natural language, there's the data part. How to make sure that your LLM understands data from a diverse range of sources, and hopefully they're high quality, structured, and real-time data. So that's what my company does. We're trying to become the end-to-end data pipeline for AI agents and AI pipelines out there. So how do we achieve that? If you heard of Scale AI, they employ a global network of contractors who would use the power of LLM, but still use manual forces to help collect data, cleanse data, structure data, et cetera, et cetera. What we do is that we use the power of blockchain. Specifically, we have set up BitTensor subnets, whereby data miners run local software on their local devices and will be able to complete the end-to-end data pipeline work. Super excited to be here today and excited to share what we think are good opportunities in the space of AI and crypto.
Hi everyone, my name is Tong. I'm the founder and CEO of Hologram Labs. We're building an on-chain AI agent infrastructure for consumer use cases, starting with IPs and entertainment. We build products that lets users create dynamic avatars and IPs that can be used for marketing, for live streaming and content generation. We partner up with a few brands such as L'Oreal, Bilibili, as well as Web3 brands like Pudgy Penguins, Milady, and other NFT projects to create over 100,000 3D assets which are usable across live streaming and content generation. And our conviction is really around creating the consumer layer that enables more users to use AI, but on top of Web3 stack. And we firmly believe that I think the next moment for mass adoption will come in the form of something like a Ghibli for video, similar to how it happened for ChatGPT 4.0 just a few weeks ago. So excited to be here to introduce more about our project as well as to talk about AI agents in general.
Hi everyone, my name is Cindy and I'm from Kite AI, leading all the marketing efforts at Kite. So Kite is a purpose-built layer 1 for AI, and we're building a new consensus layer called Proof of AI that help all the AI contributors to track their attributions across data, model, and agent. Assuming now you are building a new agent, AI agent, then you will use other contributors' data, use their models, and how to measure other people's contribution and give them the reward accordingly. This is the problem we're solving right now. So very exciting opportunity I see that across AI and Web3 right now is that we feel that finally blockchain it's not only AI for blockchain for Web3, but now finally the blockchain actually can solve some big AI challenges. For us, it's that it helps with the AI transparency, because when you your new consensus layer we're building, like proof of AI, it helps you to track all the data sources in a transparent way and trustless way. And also it helps all the contributors to know where my ownership and how to align, realign the incentives, not only from the centralized AI company, but now for the distributed community. So very excited to see how blockchain can contribute to the mainstream AI challenges right now.
Hey everyone, I'm Scott, co-founder of SuperNet. I think that the best way to describe what we're building is essentially a super agent, an aggregator of various agents across Web3 and Web2, trying to find a way to optimize your sort of outputs for various different tasks across a network of agents that will keep growing as I assume the sort of Web3 AI space grows. And especially given the incentives to create more agents, we just thought it would make sense to have something that aggregates and simplifies that sort of workflow for the average person.
Thank you all for your introduction. So, could you please elaborate more on, like, in your area of working? So, what is the most exciting trends and opportunities in the area you are working on?
Yeah, I think since most people have already mentioned AI agents, I mean, this is definitely some consensus here. And I think, we're kind of in an era that we have already passed the ChatGPT, which is, just you are the guys who are sending instructions to different AI products and ask the AI to do stuff. Instead, we want to have the AI to actively doing stuff on your behalf. That's one thing. And the other thing is, I think most of the areas that AI have been transforming, which is mostly just writing and marketing and blog postings, things like that, I think it's still very limiting. I think starting from now, we're gonna dive a little bit deeper into some verticalized areas like medical, like lawyer or whatever. Because I think at the end of the day, AI as artificial intelligence, it should be able to replace a specific role in a specific domain in your daily life. So I think, at least for us, that's why our name is Questflow, is we believe that it will transform every single part of the workflow in your daily life. So.
I don't know if any of you have watched Jensen Huang from NVIDIA's recent speech about AI. If you haven't, highly recommend it, because I feel like it gives a great historic overview when it comes to the past couple years of AI. So Jensen really divided our AI development into a few stages. We started with generative AI. We're now firmly in the agentic AI age, which is what a lot of panelists here are working on. And we're in the future, in his view, moving on to physical AI, robotics, etc. So right now, agentic AI is really name of the game for the next 2 years or even 5 years. The biggest opportunities I see in agentic AI is really two things. First of all, how to easily connect data. Secondly, how to easily create AI agents. And then the takeaways, the innovations here is really clear as well. When it comes to how to easily connect data, one word that I would encourage everyone to look into is really MCP, which stands for Model Context Protocol. Think of it as the USB-C port for your AI, which makes sure that your AI applications understand LLM and vice versa. This creates an easy, open, and standardized way for LLM to be able to understand different data sources, while previously we mostly used API to be such connectivity layer. MCP is way faster, easier, transparent, and standardized. I really do think that MCP is going to usher us into the next level of connectivity. And then when it comes to the second areas of innovation, which is how to easily build AI agent, going back to vibe coding. Vibe coding basically means that you no longer need to understand programmatic language in order to create an AI agent. Sometimes you can even use natural language in order to code. So what does that mean? That means that every single one of us at the conference today, in the audience today, we will be able to create our own AI agent, and our AI agents in the future can generate side income through your side hustle. That is going to fundamentally transform how people work and how we make money in the future.
Speaking from someone who has been building in around AI since most of my professional career, so I basically started in a SF company called Bright Machines, where we're working with computer vision and AI robotics. And then after that, with Hologram, we actually started in 2022 building like computer vision plus NFTs. And now with, I think, the introduction of ChatGPT and then the acceleration of the curve around agents and I think just like new model every week, I think it's really paradise for builders, I think, at this moment, specifically for engineers who are software engineers who are building around, I think, APIs, SDKs, but also just around the foundational models that are coming in so fast. I'm really excited about MCP that Conthea mentioned. I think it's really a protocol that can usher in standardization of data for agents. And this is very important because with the AI agent and Web3 market being now back to rationality, I think everyone is looking for what is the next wave of utility. What are the actual applications around agents that are going to be used? So I think this is a very crucial moment for builders in Web3 specifically to be building useful applications that are around the generative nature of AI. And I foresee, I think in the future, I actually foresee the interfaces in which users interact. That could actually potentially just be generative. But it's the agents that is really the fundamental new primitive that is being introduced. But right now, I think we just need useful applications that can actually interact with blockchain or that leverages the blockchain to do some kind of utility. Either it's like ensuring the provenance of the IPs on top of the blockchain, or actually using the agents to interact and abstract away the complexity of the blockchain.
Yeah, I think I agree with both Clancy and with the tone that actually there is such a lot of the new use cases that can be generated because the Gen AI, instead of in the past, people just use the traditional machine learning algorithms. It's very different kind of the technology. So for me, one thing makes me very excited is I feel like AI for all, this kind of dream is becoming closer and closer. One is because the technology you all mentioned. Another is because I think now the cost of the foundation model is lower and lower. Think about the DeepSeek that launched a few months ago. The cost to train that foundation model actually is much lower than when we do the OpenAI at the beginning. And in the GTC that hosted by NVIDIA's last month, they also mentioned for some very domain-specific area like robotics. Right now, they can also easily have their own traditional Gen AI model or foundation models. In the past, the robotics is probably one of the most challenging distributed systems. People will use different planning model, vision model, sensor model together to guide the robotics to act. But right now, they also have very single unified generation, the foundation model for robotics. So which means that actually the foundation model is getting easier and easier for people to access. And then for us, what we do is when we train the agent, it's more like a fine-tuning. And the more people can do their own agent. I think there will still have some remaining questions, like because it's getting lower, the barriers to building those things is lower and lower. Then that might be cause some other problems like transparency. Who will contribute the data, and how should we secure that the whole model is not contaminated by undesigned data? And all the contributors, how to track their contributions, how to measure their contributions, and how to do all the governance when you have mass adoptions and more users, attributors from and contributors from this big and growing ecosystem. So that's why I feel that blockchain, because it's very verifiable and the open nature of the technology itself can help to track all the AI governance and to track all the attribution. This is also something we're building right now, and we're very excited to see how that can help with the overall AI ecosystem.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was mentioned is definitely the cost of models going down. That's really exciting because I think we're in this Cambrian explosion period of different AI models that haven't really, I guess, gotten mainstream adoption yet. Like, it feels like basically now you have people who can actually start to iterate on these openly in public in a way that previously felt like it was kind of gatekept by those like 4 or 5 large players. So that to me is interesting, but it also leads to a potential risk, which is that we just have this massive number of agents or different models that we don't actually really understand how to curate. And I think that's the same problem that we ran into with the early web before we had something like Google, where there just was no way to really know like how to actually access this information. So I'm excited to see how that curation and sort of like, I guess, like adversarial sort of like network looks to find the best or like kind of create evolutionary pressure to select the best agents in different contexts. And I think that's something that we're excited to keep building on.
Thanks. So you mentioned about these exciting opportunities in the Web3 and in AI. And my next question is about challenges. So what do you think are the biggest challenges in merging like AI and Web3 at scale?
Yeah, for me, I think just worrying too much about prices is definitely one. Just to get started, especially for today, I think. I mean, it's the upside and downside for Web3. Like, the upside is, because you have the token, you have the ownership, you have the community, so a lot of people can kind of help you to build a project ground up to help you kind of scale it. But the downside is if you pay too much attention to the price as a project, then you get distracted because you don't have so much time, you have so much money, and then you shouldn't spend too much on just focusing on that. So I think for one key phrase that we always talk about internally is, as an AI project, the AI doesn't really know what chain you are on. The AI doesn't really know the price. The AI doesn't really know like how much money that you have raised. The thing that AI knows is how to synthesize information, take actions, and maybe handle payments on chain. That's what AI can do. So I think as a project alone, of course, as a founder, you have to pay attention to what's happening around the world, but you shouldn't spend too much time on that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think the cyclicality of building technology in Web3 has become very obvious recently. Today, I noticed that our stages are really divided into 4 seasons, right? We're in autumn or fall here, which is probably an accurate representation of how we feel the market temperature right now. But the fundamental motivation behind building technology should not be completely and only coupled with the price of your token or how much financial gain you can extract from what you're building or the token price. But unfortunately, that is currently the reality in Web3 right now. To some extent, it makes sense because each and every project must have a way to fund your own innovation. But then on the other side, if your only motivation for building here is to make money, is to pump and dump, then you're not going to build long-lasting technology in this space. So how does that manifest and how does that impact our day-to-day life? At Masa, we are building data products for AI developers. We started by selling our data products to Web3 AI developers. One thing we realized is that a lot of them disappear after a couple months. Projects cease to exist because maybe they've accomplished what they came to this industry to accomplish. So after a couple months, we lose a customer. So instead, we started to really expand our horizon, not only selling our product to Web3 projects, but also selling it to Web2 AI developers. I am really hoping that in a few years, we'll come back to this stage in Hong Kong and hopefully offer a very different perspective. But currently, that is the challenge we face as an industry.
I think from a builder perspective, building AI agents today, one of the biggest challenges that's faced is really around access to quality data. And I think the root cause of this is really the standardization of the data. I think relating back to the MCP protocol, I think that's what it promises to solve, but I think really enable the rich data sources from different companies, from different open source communities, or from different open platforms. If these can be standardized and just be very accessible in a way by agents that are also built on top of this protocol, that should really usher in a new wave of high utility applications that can foster passionate users. But from another perspective, I think from a bigger angle, I do think like the centralization of AI is a challenge that will be more and more prominent in our daily lives. I think right now with the release of Llama 4 and a lot of popular models building on top of open source is really great counterforce to that. But at the same time, crypto and blockchain plays an important role to really in the governance of these models, as well as in the coordination for developers and for communities to contribute to the development of new models. So that's something I'm really, really bullish about crypto and Web3's role in the future of open source development.
Yeah, to me, I think AI across Web3, the biggest challenge for, at least for our project, is how to attract more AI in general user and a builder that cross the Web 2 and the Web 3. So in Web 3, it's very easy to explain, okay, you have the reward, you have the token, but for a lot of the AI builder, real AI builder, they're still in the Web 2 world. And if we want to extend our terms for the use cases, I think it's better to remove the boundary about Web 2 and Web 3 and attract a lot of the users and the builders from another side, Web 2. But I think that the challenge is what is the value proposition if beyond the airdrop, a token, etc. So what is the new innovation and the blockchain value proposition that we can tell all the Web 2 builders that we use the Web 3 specific technology to solve AI in general challenges. So I think that's actually a remaining question, and I think it's also the question for all the Web 3 and cross AI builders. What is the value proposition and the innovation as a blockchain technology or from Web 3 side we can contribute back to the AI general use cases and to Web 2. And we're also trying very hard to work with all the Web 2 enterprise to use the blockchain technology to build out the AI governance and the transparency use cases. And we think that pilot will help us to get more data points and information about how to actually remove the boundary and make the 10, like unify the 10 for Web 2 and Web 3 for all the AI applications. Yeah.
Yeah, I just flew in from San Francisco this morning, and like one of the biggest things that I noticed there is that people aren't particularly interested in the intersection of crypto AI. And I think that, like, for example, there was a useful agents hackathon, and a lot of the agents that were built there were not that useful. I think there's still a big gap between like the actual usefulness of models in Web 2 and the usefulness of models or agents in Web 3. And I think part of that does come back to the incentive problem. So how do you actually get people to spend time and choose metrics for what's actually going to work long term and not kind of get caught up in the cyclical nature of the space? That's something that I do think we sort of, especially now, like given that where the market is, we have like the best chance of doing now. And improving now. So I think that's like the thing that I'd be like most cautious about, or would say is the biggest risk. It's just that like we kind of end up with a lot of like meta AI slop where we're not actually like building agents that are long-term viable. The other part of that risk that I would like on the other side that I think is like a risk that we're mitigating or solving is what you mentioned about like essentially decentralized AI being or centralized AI being like the main source of these in the future, these agents in the future. And I think decentralization generally is just a hedge against the Sam Altman world currency future in that sense, which I would say is probably good. That to me is an important sort of step that we're taking as an industry.
Thank you. So my next round of questions is about data. So because data is the lifeblood of AI, right? So how does decentralization shift the dynamics of data ownership and privacy? Is it realistic to imagine a future where users truly own their data?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of data experts here, so I won't expand too much on this. But the opportunity that we see is I mean, there are three eras of data, I think. Like the first wave is the open data, which is Perplexity, ChatGPT, all these guys. They are kind of getting data from the open web and trying to synthesize and give you the output. That's like one era. And I think the second era is more on enterprise data. So Clean.ai is like one good example, which is they help the enterprise to synthesize information across multiple internal data platforms. I think the third wave, which is what Web3 is good at, is the community-owned AI or the community-owned data platforms, which is there are a lot of valuable data up behind the quote-unquote APIs, but quote-unquote behind the internal drives, and how can we give them proper incentives and also get exchange, get the data out, and trying to create a new kind of like data wave for this new era. But of course, like we are not a data platform, so we are not expert on this. So, and hand over to Clanthia.
So the question was, is it possible to have user-owned data that is privacy-focused? My answer is, it is very hard. And it should not be the first-order problem that blockchain tries to solve for. And here's why. When we first started, we actually also naturally got into the idea of user-owned data as the first point of entry into the intersection of data and blockchain. So we invented something called a zero-knowledge Sobong token, whereby user can leave their private data in the private vault and will be able to exchange the data without revealing the underlying data. But guess what? It was really, really, really difficult to reach product market fit with that specific product, and so do many other very ideological products in Web3. And then we later pivoted to something that's more efficient and directly catering to developers' needs, which is how do I outsource my data engineering team? Meaning, how do I have an end-to-end solution for data aggregation, cleaning, storage, and structuring? This is something that we can also use incentive to do. A lot of people, when they think about data and blockchain, they automatically only go to the land of user-owned data. But that is actually not the only way we can use incentive to facilitate data exchange in Web3. We can also get a group of miners, like we have done, to help you do data cleaning, data structuring, data storage, etc. If we look at Web2, one of the most profitable and successful companies in Web2 AI is really Scale AI. Last night I was checking, they made around $800 million in revenue last year, which is a great example of how something as probably minutia as data can make you a lot of money. And imagine, instead of using a global network of humans to do that, you can use a global network of devices and software to do that. That is making it far more efficient, making rewards distribution near real time, and optimize the coordination layer. So really, going back to your question, I think it is possible, it is hard, and maybe it should not be the first problem we're trying to solve for at the intersection of blockchain and data.
This is a question I don't think I have a final answer to. It's something I think about every day, and it really is learning on an ongoing basis. I think there's two counteracting forces around data, in terms of like using blockchain to coordinate and connecting in an open way. Private companies like Uber and Slack and those type of companies they don't have an incentive to make their data publicly available such that it can be useful, for open source communities and agents because they want to monetize it and gatekeep that directly. So I think that is a counteracting force because it's an incentive problem. But what I am very interested in right now exploring is really the way to use blockchain to incentivize open source communities and data sources that are not previously activated. I think this is something that, economic incentives and coordination is something that blockchain does really well. And I think I think there is still work to be done to connect that layer with open source communities that are actually building on top of AI and on top of applications.
Yeah, I just echo Tom that we also think there's majority of the data training, AI training data is still on the centralized company. I think we did one of the analysis that for bank industry, about like 80% of the data is from maybe those centralized bank, but all the user data are actually very hard to retrieve and use for any application training. But I think the decentralized data ownership at least open a window for people to try. But there's still a lot of challenge, and to be it's like a fully decentralized user-owned data. I think there's a lot of the challenges still remaining. So for us, when we build our data subnet, try to let all the community and the subnet owners and partners to contribute the data for the whole ecosystem to use. At least we found two challenges. One is the data standard. We feel that different use cases, the data standard is very different. We have one subnet, they are doing the medical data. Basically, they just do all the pathology image and ask people to label all those pathology images to find where is the cancer trace, and then they use for the medical training purpose. And then another maybe just the social media's personal, those like encrypted personal data, then they can chat, they can train for a personalized bot. And you feel those data set, data format, and also the data standards to use different data is very different. So I think that the first challenge is that you have to work with your community or the subnet or your ecosystem partner to streamline all those data standards. And every use cases, those data standards might be very different. Some of them will be highly regulated. So that things actually require more ecosystem joint efforts, maybe the industry joint efforts to do that together. Another is, as we already discussed, is the attribution, like who is the data owner, and if I use your data for training, how can I measure your contribution? It's very not just like API call itself. It has to also measure the weight of the data for the models, like what data actually have a higher weight than other data when you do the training. So far, I think that actually requires a lot of the fine-tuning about the blockchain technology, about the AI inferences tunings to achieve this balance about track your ownership and also measure the weight about your contribution to different models when you do the inferences and fine-tuning. And this is, I think, a challenging problem. We are working on that. And I also think this is part of the problem that we will invite more like industry innovators to work down together, because I think that these are the prerequisites for eventually we have a more decentralized ownership and more data owned, the data can be owned by the users.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like in this space, I think we really understand that when we're contributing to a protocol or to a project, that we are providing something of value and that has an economic value. I think that when a lot of people are using these models or providing kind of data to these services, they don't really recognize that fact. And I think that we can at least educate people on that as a very starting point. The next thing I would say that is like interesting to actually to Tong's point was like, I do think the idea of coordinating around almost like data cooperatives is a really good model. And like Vana's been doing a little bit of work on this that I think is really interesting. I would love to see that expand to like the current range of people providing data to existing agents and models, and beyond just what's sort of like being done with Vana right now. The maybe last point that I'll quickly mention is I think that when we talk about data, we also should really make sure, like I'm a huge proponent obviously of open source software and so forth, but to talk about weights and like the opening of weights, and I think that's something that's started to become a conversation, especially like post DeepSeek, and I'm excited to just see more of that evolution as we start to get people away from more proprietary models.
Thanks. So my next question is about trust. So as you know, like trust is the major concern when it comes to AI decision making. So how can blockchain and decentralized governance models help build more transparent and accountable AI system? Since time is limited, so maybe I'll give you 1 minute for each to talk about this.
Sure. So I'll just explain what we do. So one main thing that we do is we have AI agent to work, and we put basically what they are working on chain, and we are using that as a verifiable layer to kind of prove that the AI is actually working.
Whatever Bob said. It's really hard to tackle this problem in 1 minute, but I'll say that do not over-index on blockchain governance model, because that is something still work in progress since 2013. What we should rely on is mostly tech-based solution, like what Bob mentioned, in order to solve the trust and security issue.
One interesting aspect of AI agents is also you can delegate the actor to be the trusted entity. rather than trusting centralized companies or humans. So I think that's something that is very interested by a lot of companies and that we talk to every day. But I think there is still work to be done for the hardware layer and for also the the environments that are actually running the agents and proving that this is a verifiable use case. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also, I agree with Clancy, it's beyond the governance model. I think it's also about how to track all the data sources from the beginning when people contribute to the end when people use that for training. So that's actually the nature of the blockchain, the variable nature of the blockchain can help with this kind of the process tracking.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, verifiability is quite important, but I would say there's a subjective element here of what has actually been useful to the people that are using the models. And I would just like also encourage us, because I think I agree with everything that was said, by the way, that I also think that it would be useful for us to think about how to have more direct input with users of these models and providers of data and consumers of data on what actually is like long run useful. We see that with a lot of social networks historically. We don't really see that yet with beyond like kind of private RLHF stuff, and I would love to see more of that in public.
Thank you. So to close, one last question. So it's about the future. So what is your like bold prediction about the future of AI and Web3, say in the next 5 years?
I mean, other than AGI, which that would be a very bold predicament. I think what we really want to see is AI transforming some critical areas, and something that we are excited about is healthcare. Because, I mean, there's a huge pool of human genome data out there, which is available, it's already out there, but it's not useful yet. And that's something that we're exploring. And if AI can solve any problem in healthcare, that would be a huge benefit for humanity as a whole.
I feel like 5 years is 50 years in AI, so it's really hard to tell what's going to happen in 5 years. And bear in mind that ChatGPT was first launched 2 years ago, and in 2 years, all of our lives have been transformed. But if I were to make a prediction for the next 5 months, my biggest bet is behind natural language. So instead of needing to know how to code, you will be able to use natural language, aka English, or native tongue, in order to communicate with LLM.
Agents are an interface for which we access the internet, and most of the foundation models and utility-based agents will be abstracted away into API, and then the personalized agents, every individual will have an agent, and basically that agent will be the way they access the best of the resources that are available.
I think in 5 years, hopefully there will be no discussion between AI, Web2, and Web3. That will be just AI for all the use cases. And blockchain technology help AI to solve some mass adoption problems. So it's no longer Web2, Web3, and AI, but it's just AI for all.
I really like that note, actually, to end on. I think that if we just get all these sort of agents to be in this evolutionary pool together and to figure out which ones are best, whether those are the existing Web 2 models, whether those are new Web 3 models, I think is less important than that those end up being useful to the average person. And I think in 5 years, we'll see pretty much everyone using AI in their day-to-day lives in the real world, actually in physical use cases. I would love to see more in hardware on that front. I would love to see the robotic stuff that you were saying Jensen was talking about come true. And that's one piece that I'm particularly excited about just personally. But I like the idea of AI for all.
Thank you. Thank you all for the incredible discussion today.